All of us have insecurities. So let's just lay that out at the very front of this episode. The question is, what are we going to do with them? Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Transformed You. I'm Mark DeJesus here with my wife, Melissa, and we are ready to attack this subject of insecurity because everybody's got it. Everybody's got aspects of insecurity.
What? I'm not insecure.
Well, we'll work on you by the end of this episode. Maybe we'll get you out of denial.
Well, yeah.
Because here's the thing. We don't want to show it. We don't want people to know it. We struggle with feeling safe and being vulnerable. And the thing that I want to bring home is, number one, is an encouragement to help people when it comes to the subject of insecurity, is to have the courage to face it, to deal with it, and to get sober, to realize that the areas where you feel insecure, those areas, if they're not brought to good attention and healing, they impact others.
Right. And they create, I know for my own self, they create things that you end up doing as you get older in life to either avoid a situation or kind of make a situation have different outcomes. Because at some point you kind of realize that you are insecure or you have a weird way of interacting.
Yep. And I think life in our journey with God presents certain things that bring out your insecurities for the purpose of, hey, we're going to deal with this stuff and it's not everybody else's fault and it's not always this and that. I want to heal some things inside of you. And you brought out, we typically have a couple responses. One is, I'm going to avoid, withdraw, be passive, or I'm going to cover it up with high energy, busyness, performance, achievement, constant, excessive energy, workaholism, or whatever it would go into. Really, the reality is we're insecure. So let's kind of define it.
Okay.
In the book, Exposing the Rejection Mindset, I spend a brief chapter talking about insecurity and then the reestablishment of what it means to have identity. So when we're talking about insecurity, we're talking about a number of areas. We're talking about a sense of uncertainty in your life where you're not confident, sure, you lack assurance.
I feel like the word insecurity makes me feel
insecure.
Just makes me, the definition for me is just not okay in my own skin. That's how I define it for myself.
Well said. And I think that it helps define it. I think a lot of people, though, would go, oh, I'm fine in my skin.
Well, there is the other side of that too.
Because they have a nice, like, they have a machine, robotic,
fabricated kind of personality that comes out to protect. Yeah.
Yeah. They have the smart guy or the funny guy.
And so they think that that's being sure of themselves.
Right. You can go, I'm a child of God because I am, and they quote Ephesians 1 and 2, and they know how to quote it really well, and it's given into a presentation.
And then when they're put into a group setting or somewhere where you're going to share, that personality comes out, and it's like, no, you're robbing everybody of seeing the real you and of that person being vulnerable.
So maybe what we could do is you could talk about insecurity, but then also define, what does security actually look like? And what are we headed towards?
Okay.
So I mentioned uncertainty, mentioned unsafe. There's aspects that don't feel, and that goes into what you were saying about not feeling safe in your own skin. I don't feel guarded. I don't feel like I'm protected. Feel shaky. That was what kind of insecurity brings to my mind. It's like, I'm just not stable. I'm shaky, either emotionally or in my mind, or, another word we could say is unstable. There's an instability that's there where you're not able to maybe adjust to certain situations. So that's kind of like some aspects of insecurity, but being secure. Like, what does it look like to be secure? I think the way that I would define it is security is you're able to be confident in who you are in any setting.
That's what I want.
Me too.
I really want that. Yeah.
So it doesn't mean, some people in their minds think that being secure means you show up to a gathering and you are just charismatically magnetic.
Super social. You came in and you own the room, right?
Yeah. That's not what it means. It means there is a grounded confidence in who you are, being true to who God is inside of you. And as we'll probably talk about next week, you're grounded in your true identity, which is you are a daughter, you are a son of your Father in heaven. That's who you are. So we're so insecure, so we wrap ourselves up into stuff that's not stable. And we lose our identity in those areas. So anyway, when did you start being insecure?
Out of the chute.
Out of the chute. Right. Me too.
No, I mean, honestly, my earliest memory is of me being insecure. Really, like uncomfortable around people. So I would either overtalk or kind of hide. Then I took on like a funny personality. Yeah, I feel like that for most of my life, and actually we referenced this in an old episode about like taking a personality quizzes and stuff.
Yeah.
That when I would take those, I actually fall into like this abyss. Every personality quiz that I take, it's really weird. So when I worked in corporate years ago, we had to take a test and it was the seasons. I forget which one it was. And I ended up where I fell in all 4 seasons. And so the people around me were like, oh, that's so cool. You can like be part of any situation when you go into it. And I'm like, no, because I don't really know who I am. And I'm so insecure that I just morph into like whatever boyfriend I was with, what his likes were, whatever my friends liked. I did not know who I was. And I was so insecure. So I would just kind of like be part of what everyone else was. And then if I couldn't do that, I took on a personality. So I was the funny one. Most of the time I tried to do that, like kind of self-deprecate a lot. So I feel like when I look back, that's all I had was insecurity in every situation. And then when I kind of like came of age and felt like I was pretty, then I was like, oh, I could use my looks a little bit when I was younger, for a situation, because I just was so insecure and had no idea who I was.
So doesn't the whole aspect of like when you answered the personality profile and you feel like you're a little bit of everything, doesn't that come out of a lack of clarity of who you really are, being connected to how you feel, how you see things, having a solid equipping in that?
Oh, big time.
And so doesn't that what makes us all insecure is because we're like, should I act this way or this way? Should I think this way or this way?
Oh, even when it came down to clothing.
Right.
Really, the type of shoes I wore, the clothes that I wore, depended upon like who I was with. I had so much insecurity. I thought, oh, okay, if I dress like them, then maybe I'll feel better and I'll belong there. Well, then if I do this and I talk like them, well, maybe I'll feel better and I'll belong there. Well, if I date this guy and I kind of get into his interest, well, you know what? That's me. That's who I am.
Right.
I did that in every single situation and nothing made me happy. And I was constantly like, really, I didn't know. I had so much depression back then because I just did not know who I was. I was so insecure.
Yeah. So doesn't that then sorry, I lost
Make me confused over everything.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Well, the thing that you're expressing is double-mindedness too, like what I was.
Well, doesn't this lean
about.
Into that? Yeah.
So I would think about, how I would approach people, and I was like, this person, they need to hear this firmly. Well, but that's not very loving. You want to be want to be loving. Well, we're like they're running over us, and like constantly bouncing back. And I feel like a lot of people, if they're honest, they struggle with that. Like, how do you approach relationships? You are insecure with where do I land in having, because when you're insecure, you're very easily double-minded. When you're double-minded, you lack wisdom.
Right.
So you don't know what's the way to land in a certain situation. So you do like what you said, respond, be a responder. What's the situation? Kind of set the thermostat to what you feel people are doing, or just like tilt. Like, I don't know which way to go.
Right.
And I think, when I look back at my journey in security, like I'll start with ministry avenues because I started so young. in ministry, which is a whole subject in itself. But I remember like so many areas that I really struggled with that I just put on a good face, and there wasn't really any room to go, yeah, I have a hard time with that. So for example, one of my like debilitating fears was like public speaking. And like if you asked me, Mark, you're going to speak a sermon on this date, let's say it's 2 months from now, I would be anxious all day, every day until that date arrived. And I never told anyone. I never told anyone because it was like,
which I think is common with most people. I don't think most people process that out. It's
Right.
an internal world.
I didn't even think that that was an option to talk it out, that I didn't have to carry that.
Right.
And there's a lot of reasons why I carried that, a lot of reasons, that wanted to happen. And like, and so I remember one time, this sounds silly, but this is my world. Actually, I think a lot of people could relate to this. Was working at a larger church. We had a lot of services, and I would be asked to do the offering a lot. You get up and do the announcements. You kind of take the offering. It's kind of like a transitionary speaking moment. And I'd have to announce stuff I wasn't really that familiar with. I'm like looking at a sheet, like, okay, it's not an event I'm putting on, so I would be so knotted up about it. I'd be thinking about it all weekend.
So then,
well, let me just finish this thought.
Go ahead.
So
yeah.
I remember bringing it up. I brought it up once because it was bothering me so bad. I started crying because I was burnt out, chronically burnt out all the time, and it just kind of got to me. And I shared it. And I remember one of the staffers that I shared it with was like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." And I'm not blaming him, but I don't think he was aware, like, what I'm saying. Like, this is
right,
really...
because it's kind of like he's coming from a standpoint of like, why are you struggling with that? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Dismissive.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I'm about ready to lose it.
Yep, I'm about ready to lose it. And so then that fear went deeper into the root system, because it's like, there's some serious stuff wrong with me. I am very flawed. Shame comes over me like a blanket, and that the insecurity never gets healed. When in reality, it's like a lot of people struggle with public speaking. A lot of people struggle with this. And what we need to equip each other, have conversations, and walk through, what does it look like to take those pressures off?
Yeah. Well, I want to just highlight a word that you said, because not only, within my story, that insecurity coming out of rejection developed double-mindedness, confusion, and all these things, that fear is a major component when we're talking about this insecurity and what that pulls on.
Correct. It's its greatest force is that empty area, because insecurity is like an empty area. It's like it just hasn't been nurtured, hasn't been equipped. So if you think about anything that challenges you, your fear is going to get in there. So fear basically does one of the two responses. Mine was high energy, thrust, push through, perform, burden, perfectionism, get it right, put everything you got into this. That's one aspect, which there's a fear and there's an anger there too.
Anger at self.
Yeah. Really, it's a self thing. Yeah. But it fuels an anger. Like when you see like high performing people, relationally, there's an anger they carry off, that they have on themselves. It's just like an irritability. You can always just feel it off of them, right? So that's the avenue and pathway I took. Or other people will take a passive avenue, which is, I'm going to withdraw. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not even going to bother, because that scares me. That's the fear.
Right.
The fear is like, you either got to fight or flight.
Right. Because after a while, I know for me, it was kind of like, well, I don't want to feel yucky after interactions anymore. I was tired of feeling like that.
Right.
They have shirts out now. It's kind of funny, but it's not, where like their mom shirts, kind of mocking, like, yeah, I was supposed to get together with somebody today, but I'd rather like lay on the couch, or,
right.
You know what I'm talking about. So they're funny, but it's kind of sad that we feel like that.
There's a great bit that Tom Papa does that. He goes, isn't canceling great?
Yes, thank you. It's like I didn't do it justice.
That's the one you're talking about.
Punchline.
That's when you're talking about.
Well, it's like that. There's a bunch of different sayings kind of around that sentiment that
where he's like, I love canceling. When somebody calls and they cancel, isn't canceling the best?
Canceling's amazing. I'm always the one canceling though.
Well, I think that I'm
like, I'm too tired after. I'm too exhausted trying to not be myself, right? I'm too exhausted not being myself around people because I'm like,
right there.
Ah!
Cut the episode, end it.
Thank you. Boom. Drop the mic.
Go.
I said it.
Totally. That's it right there.
I was so exhausted not being myself and performing in I'm the funny girl, I'm the pretty girl, I'm the like, I'll wear this or let's go here. Right. Like, totally. And I never wanted to be any of those things, but I didn't know what I wanted to be.
Yeah. It's the biggest reason why relationships are draining. We feel we need to put on something. We, to either be, to initiate, to carry, to respond right,
now.
to be.
I'm just going to collapse on the floor.
So, all right. So I think that something that I want to encourage people in is.
Encourage away. What? Let's do it.
Paul said this in 1 Corinthians. He said, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child, acted like a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. I think there are aspects of our lives, of our hearts, that are still stuck in childlike ways. That is where insecurity is. So Let me give an example.
So good.
Because one of the things I shared about like my relationship struggles, especially even coming into meeting you. I was very relationally phobic, very anxious about committed, intimate relationship, especially with a female. It was a battle that I had to really work through. It became a place God did some major healing. A big part of it was I'm thrust into ministry avenues at a very young age, but my personal relational development was left behind. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because you're off to the races and working on like your preaching, you want to like work on like I'm talking to parents and leaders and building leadership teams. And then at the end of the day, just go to bed, wake up and do it again. There was very little like cultivation of inner life apart from that, no identity apart from that. So there were aspects of fear and all this junk that was in me, but there was undeveloped. So as I began to discover this stuff and God's starting to work on it, and as you and I came together and started dating and then later engagement and marriage, I realized those things are lagging behind. Like, you want me to do this, this, and this, like I can boom, 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 do it unconsciously, but like sit and be myself and be vulnerable and stay in that and not run? Nope. And I think that if I can speak for a lot of men, I think a lot of men have a lot of like shut down, closed out areas of their heart that are immature and undeveloped. But
that is so true.
Because they can shine at work, they think they're good. Or they can throw a party, or they can have a get together or hang out with the guys. But there's relational parts, they just can't go there. You can't. And the reason is when you just bring it up. Just talk to them. Right. And it's like, there's not really an ability to really engage some of those areas.
Which is why we've done those episodes on the emotional intelligence, because we bump into this a lot when we help people with marriages. Most of the time, and this isn't a secret, that it's usually women that are pursuing health and wholeness. We've seen the uptick in men, but most of the time it's women, and they're bringing their husbands in, and the husbands are like, I don't even know how to say what I want to say. I don't know how to talk. Like we are not training our boys in ways of the heart to be able to communicate how we're feeling. Yeah.
So we're insecure. We can go to work, when we come home, hide. How do we break that cycle? Like, how do we get, I know what I had to do to face that, but how do we really see the church awaken in those areas? And I'm not just talking about men, I'm talking about females as well too, because we're all so insecure, we're all so broken, and God is looking at these areas and going, I want to develop them. I want to raise you as sons and daughters. I want to bring you past elementary and bring you into junior high. And I want you to graduate high school. I want you to become an adult. I want you to mature. That's what he's doing as a father because he loves us, right? But we're like still in these like childish ways, grown adults, and struggling.
Yeah.
Feeling like kids. And I think the only thing I have, you could tell me what you think, is I think God has to go back to the beginning. So, you're a grown woman, a grown man, and you struggle with all these insecurities. The thing that we buck against, I don't want to talk about my childhood, but why did Jesus say, if you want to come into the kingdom, he said, you got to come like a child.
Right.
And why would he say, you need to be born again? Like he used that direct picture. And we use that as like, hey, it's a new start. You're saved. You're forgiven. Right. True. But to think about it, born again. Why didn't he just say you need to be started over? You need fresh start. Why did he say born again? To the point that Nicodemus was like, wait, I have to go back in my mother's womb. So he took in the metaphor deeply. And Jesus is like, no, this is of the Spirit.
Yeah,
you actually have to go back to birth in the Spirit, new dad, new identity, and you need to go back to what it means to be a child and trust again.
Right.
Right? Because that's why we're insecure. We don't have a trust that if we step out, we're okay. And guys struggle with it, so we just revert to what we know to do, we're confident in. We don't have a conversation, but I could do a sales call.
Right.
Right?
Which,
or what would it be? What's the equivalent? In females' heart, there's struggles, but I'll just dive into being a mom.
Right.
I'll just dive into
to stuff all day. You getting your house in order, and you kind of just, well, I got the laundry done, I got this done, I got that done, and you go into the tasks.
Or ministry mode.
True.
There's a lot of people like, and maybe you're one of them listening to this. There's a lot of people like they can't turn it off.
No.
Like, hey, how are you doing? Well, God is good. I just did some things with starting a new ministry. That's great. So, you seen any good movies lately? No, I really haven't had time to because I'm just really, it's God is really good. Like, you don't know who you are.
Right.
Like, stop it with the constant, all your ministry business
Which
things.
to me is going into why the church is just not effective right now. Like we're huddling together in churches and we're doing this and we're doing groups and all that stuff, but we need to get to the heart of some stuff, or else what is it for?
Right. So yeah, so I think that we have to be willing to like let God go to the foundation.
Absolutely.
I got to deal with my stuff. I got to revisit like what it means to be a child, because most people don't even know what that feels like. They lost their childhood. For me, I lost certain aspects of transition from I graduated high school within a 3-month time. I graduated high school 2-month time, and was running a youth ministry with people that were old enough to be my parents and a youth group that exploded. It grew fast, right? So in that time period, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, there's no transition into like
manhood.
Manhood.
What you're supposed to be.
The aspects of your cerebral cortex are,
You're going to get brainy on me.
moving into your 20s. No.
I'm joking.
I could. Are moving into your 20s. They say that some of that doesn't even form until like, 26, right?
Yeah.
Frontal lobe stuff, things like that.
So don't be making any big decisions. No,
so I'm in the midst of like, all those things, very anxiety prone, very obsessive, and addict hangups, it's like, so the recovery part is not, okay, we're going to fix this. The recovery, God goes, I want to take you back to the beginning. I want you to know what it means to be my kid.
Right. Because I kept thinking, well, I just need to make better decisions.
Right.
If I can just be secure in my decisions and go, I'm good.
Right.
It didn't work. It did not work. Because inevitably that sucker was still, that rejection was like, oh no, baby, I got you. I got you. And I'm going to spin you out after you're done talking to this person because you're going to say something you think is stupid.
Right.
And you're insecure. So you're going to say this and you're going to say that, hoping you please them or make them laugh or something. And then I got you for the rest of the night. You're out and you ain't sleeping.
Totally.
That's my life.
And the thing I want to say, is too, is the goal is not like fixing you.
Right.
That's not the goal. The first step is really vulnerability and going, I've got some stuff.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time advocating for Christianity to just be okay. Yeah. You got some stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people buck that. They can theologically, I'm not broken. Nothing's broken.
Past is the past. Right.
Past is the past. Jesus paid the price. All these things like we say. It's like, okay, it's just all a way. It's all a way of like just there's truth to it, but it's like it gets out of context where God's not condemning us over these insecurities. That's what you need to understand.
No, but it's kind of like growing up in an alcoholic home and there's holes in the wall and mommy comes in and puts wallpaper and the wallpaper looks so pretty. But guess what? That hole went into where mold is going to be growing. Like the hole is still there. The damage is still there.
Yeah, you just went into like that illustration can go 1,000 different ways because even the mother coming home and just patching it up and not dealing with the fact that the alcoholic father is acting the way he's acting.
Right.
She's codependent with him and it doesn't.
And then we're the children of this and walking around going, why don't I feel good about myself?
So the insecurity goes down below the surface, right?
Right.
Because we don't have a culture. That's what you were saying about that. Like the church needs to like be more effective in like us sharing insecurity safely, but walking alongside of each other and moving towards, healthier empowerment in ways. Right. We haven't had that reference of like, this made me nervous. Let's talk this thing out. This thing's bothering me. That made me mad. Or I don't know how to deal with this. I'm on social media and this thing triggered me into whatever.
Right.
That we need to start, because otherwise you're going to, and social media is a great example. You just will withdraw or you're going to overcompensate.
Yeah. Which is why we encourage so much, and I'm going to go back to the words of the emotional intelligence, because that's back to, okay, we're broken. We need heart healing. We need restoration and what it is to be God's child. We need to be able to articulate that, to start engaging that language with God, with others, with ourselves, to go, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I now can start putting some language to it and identifying it and going, okay, this is where I can go for help, because there are places out there. We have our materials that we've spent so much time just from our own pain and journey putting together. But there are some other great ministries out there. One that you love, Ransom Heart, John Eldridge. They're great people trying to dig in to get to the heart of the matter so that we can start healing our families and now start operating together in more wholeness. Because really, we should all be getting together going, all right, let's help heal each other's wounds. And we're just so unsafe and so goofy that we just don't even know how to do that.
We spend so much time.
It could make me weak because it's what I desire so much.
We spend so much time doing, very little time being. There's always an agenda. There's always like a project, and we don't know how to just be and go, let's, and I think that's, as culture gets more and more sophisticated, more busy, more shallow in what we're chasing after, we're losing this. And we're just wanting to be more mindful of the importance of this, because we value your mental and emotional health, and we value, and it's not about perfection. That's not even the goal of this, is you're just like totally secure and like, you're just like rock solid. You're going to have areas. There's always new layers that you're working through, but it's an enjoyable thing, and it can be a safe thing. And I find God will use those insecurity places incredibly.
Right, they're so valuable, and they're jewels.
The biggest place I struggled with, like I said, was speaking in front of people.
Right.
And what did I end up doing? So it's in the process, God uses that insecurity place and in what I'm doing as the incubator. He uses that as the laboratory to go, I want to teach you not just how to like rock the sale or kill that meeting and you know, be an amazing rock star salesperson. No, I want to teach you sonship. I want to teach you what it means to just be loved. And so if you find yourself in some area, which we all have, the invitation is the recovery back to simplicity of identity. What does it mean to just be his child? What does it mean to just be loved by your Father in heaven? What does it mean to get his approval? What does it mean to be okay that, you know, if you didn't have your job or you didn't have all those things that you rely on for fanfare or for validation, back at the core, what is it? And don't just give me a nice answer. I want something from the heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for most of us, it's like, I don't know. So
right. It's very true. Well, I think, and also this book too is important for this topic right now too.
Yeah, when it comes to the areas, in the exposing the rejection mindset, we really go, deeper into this because rejection wants to capture those areas where we're insecure and take you into places, and then of course want to reject yourself. Yeah. And so we really want to recommend these resources to you. If anything we're saying, hit a button, hit a place that you're going, yep, I relate to that. Exposing the rejection mindset and God loves me and I love myself. You want to utilize these because they'll give you some grids to begin to walk through the steps of what does it look like to not only heal but gain some more confidence, because confidence is a manifestation of working through the insecurities that got some brokenness, but I'm okay. And I can be confident in that in-between state as God's growing me. Mm-hmm. So
stay in the game, everybody.
Yeah. So anyways, hope this is a blessing to your life. Yeah. If it has been in any way, please consider checking out a sponsored resource, which is Audible. We love that resource. We recommend it to everybody. You get a free download, 30-day trial. And you can use our link on our website. Just go to the show notes. Consider a one-time donation to support this. Thank you for those of you who have. And also consider becoming a transformational partner. We have 2 levels that you can join. One is a audio track where you can access audio trainings. And then there's a second track where you can access audio and a whole series of exclusive video trainings that I've done. Join the tribe. It helps support what we're doing. And we just greatly appreciate you listening. Tell others about it. Share these episodes. Subscribe to all our areas. And we look forward to future episodes.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
See you next time.